Since it takes me longer to afford the time and money to make my usual style of art, I still want to be creative in some way and take the time to talk about some stuff that I've really been enjoying. With the summer finally coming towards an end and the approaching anxiety of this year's election looming ever more closely, I thought it'd be really cool to talk about and briefly analyze some really cool art I've been enjoying this summer. That's it. That's the video. I'm not the best at making seamless transitions. I was pleasantly surprised after I watched Julio Torres' film Problemista earlier this year. It left me with so many thoughts that I had to jot them down in my letterbox. Follow me on Letterboxd if you hear about movies and are curious about my sometimes detailed thoughts or stupid jokes I think are funny on whatever I'm watching at the time. Okay, shameless Letterboxd plug is over. After enjoying the surrealist and idiosyncratic humor that Torres used in the touching and creative film, which felt like a breath of fresh air to me, I was really looking forward to his next creative endeavor. Fortunately, I didn't have to wait too long for it. Fantasmas is a surrealist comedy series created, directed, and written by Torres himself. It loosely follows Torres on the search for a golden oyster earring and the people he encounters along the way. The show uses its surrealist storytelling, visuals, and idiosyncratic comedy style to weave in detailed tangents that draw you in with its obtuse characters, theatrical set design, trope juxtapositions, and social commentary that are all wrapped up in this hyper reality where everything happening to the characters seems ordinary and mundane to them as we watch from an outside perspective.
Girl, not my car driving.
A standout scene from the show is Alexa Demie's performance as an extremely dedicated and malicious insurance sales worker. Demie's over-dedication and adherence to the rules while talking to the customers on the phone is humorously haunting. When things start to not go her way, leading her to call another third-party customer service representative and getting the same malicious attitude and runaround, it poignantly yet hauntingly and hilariously hits like a brick wall.
Say it.
Say what?
What am I?
You are a valued customer. And don't forget to rate us after this call.
The entire scene is funny in a dark, twisted way that is instantly relatable to anyone who's had the pleasure of being on the phone with a service representative. One of my favorite consistent performances from the main cast comes from photographer and performance artist Martine, who always gives a very poised and 60s inspired professional aura that constantly leaves me hypnotized. She could read the back of a shampoo bottle and I would be transfixed by her airy cadence. I can't fully articulate it into words. I just know that I really want her to step on me and call me a good boy. HBO Max has a history of canceling shows after 1 or 2 seasons, even when those shows have a seemingly solid and dedicated fan base. It would be a shame if this was a show that was added to that list. While it did take me a few episodes to get used to Torres' comedic and visual style, after 2 or 3 episodes, I became acquainted with it and really began enjoying the show. The series works on its own without the need for any direct continuation, which I think is awesome. Similar to its film Problemista, Fantasmas leaves me looking forward to Torres' future creative projects. I definitely recommend checking this out if you're a fan of surrealist humor, fun set design, and queer creators. I recently moved into a new apartment earlier this summer, and as everyone knows, moving is incredibly stressful.
What? No, twist it. I am. No.
With all the planning, emails, paperwork, and advice from family members, I was of course relieved when it was all said and done. One of the best parts of moving into a new place is decorating it to best represent yourself, including your interests, style, and everything else that falls under aesthetic acts. Recently, these more aesthetic considerations have really caught my attention. Last year, I came across several Twitter pages that share only aesthetically pleasing images of people's living spaces, and I've kind of been hooked on them since. Pages like SPACESTHETIC and Need are 2 of my current favorites. What I like about these posts is that they offer a nice, voyeuristic window where I can get a glimpse into how people around the world choose to decorate and curate one of the most intimate places a person can have. These spaces all feel real and lived in while not being overly sterilized unlike what you would normally see in a furnishing and home good catalogs or websites. It's really interesting to see people's choices of furniture, books, plants, records, and any other objects and what those choices say about them. The details really draw me in with each photo, leaving me to shape a story in my head about the places and the people who live in them. Is the bed made? Is there a bookshelf? What houseplants are there, if any? You know, etc., etc. These photographs really become a kind of visual exploration for me, where I get to slow down and really examine every aspect of the photo. What would I keep? What would I change? And what aspects can I incorporate into my own space to make it more meaningful to me? It scratches the itch in my brain to look at these photos and envision myself in these cozy spaces as if they were my own. All beautifully photographed in natural light that makes the spaces feel warm and even more inviting. I guess this would fall under the interior design side of the internet. While this can be a slippery slope where I start to compare these spaces to my own, I realize these are heavily curated spaces. Still, they give me a great feeling when I look at these images. It feels like a constant source of inspiration for how I can decorate my own space and my future home. You know, if I'm ever so lucky to be able to afford one. Inio Asano is a Japanese manga who's been drawing manga for over 25 years. He's well known for his character-driven, realistic stories that range from slice of life to drama and psychological horror. I first became aware of his work when I read his series Goodnight Poon Poon, a story which left a lasting impression on me while slowly draining my soul bit by bit. It had me contemplating life in the same way binge-watching BoJack Horseman over a weekend did.
Sarah Lynn? Sarah Lynn?
With his 2014 series DEDEDEDE Demon's DEDEDEDE Destruction finally getting an anime adaptation, I knew I would be seated, as this is one of my favorite stories from Asano next to his 2005 series Solonin, which makes me cry every time I read it. No shame, if you haven't read this, go read it now. It's a beautiful and sad story in all the brilliant ways that Asano does his work. DEDEDEDE Demon's DEDEDEDE Destruction explores the lives of two high school girls, Karude Koyama and Ora Nakagawa, in a world that's overshadowed by an alien invasion. The story juxtaposes their everyday young adult experiences, struggles with the backdrop of societal and governmental responses to an intimidating alien mothership that's just floating over Tokyo. The manga and anime juggle themes of youth, friendship, war, genocide, and existential dread, while blending in the mundane slice-of-life moments with the surreal and ominous presence of war and alien threats. The show actually premiered earlier this year as a two-part movie solely in Japan, before being released as a series that started airing earlier this summer on CrunchyRoll for countries outside Japan. Production studio Production Plus H has done a really good job adapting and translating Asano's original work. While the animation doesn't do anything too crazy as what you might expect to see in a shonen, it is still very well crafted, making some of the smaller and more human moments feel more palpable, really allowing you to sit, breathe, and take in these moments with these characters. Shots linger a little bit longer, requiring more of the audience's attention, with many moments making me want to rewind them just to experience them all over again. The anime uses the medium to its fullest potential, utilizing a great voice cast, amazing unique sound design, and a bop of an opening song. Rita Ikuta and Ano voices the main characters Karude and Oran respectively. Ikuta gives Karude a soft and shy performance with tinges of sadness and uncertainty in herself in the future, which perfectly coincides with the character. Ano gives a great eccentric performance for Oran, who sounds exactly as I imagined while reading the original manga. When I inevitably reread this manga, I will be hearing Ano's voice for Oran. She's a perfect fit that walks the line perfectly between Oran's bolder outbursts and her more serious, melancholic tone during her more genuine and introspective moments. For the first half of the show, things feel pretty light and wholesome, with the threat of war and government policy steadily brewing in the background. After the show takes its time getting us used to and fully engaged with the characters, the cruelty of the Japanese military against the aliens acts as a brutal world awakening, changing our perspective and worldview. This perfectly parallels with the main characters who are graduating high school and moving on to university and into the adult world. Hi, Ellie. Hi, Ellie Belly. Production Plus H does a great job animating visceral and emotional scenes of government, military forces, and extremist groups murdering the so-called invaders. With only us as the audience being able to understand the aliens' language, hearing them beg and plead for their lives makes it all the more gut-wrenching. The show doesn't just showcase the horrible violence at the hands of the military, it also depicts Japanese citizens protesting against the killing of the aliens by their own government, as well as showcasing extremist groups on both sides of the spectrum and the lengths that they are willing to go to in order to accomplish their goals. One of my favorite inclusions is that of a nuanced military character who begins to have second thoughts about his orders and regrets after seeing all the deaths at their hands. This really showcases the duality and nuances that Asano embedded into his story, something I think that wouldn't be portrayed as well in other works. The anime does take some liberties in slightly reorganizing the narrative for a better experience. Some of the changes worked for me, while others felt more impactful in the original manga. However, the same story is being told and they don't deviate far from it, really taking advantage of the animation medium to do things that are impossible in the manga format. In the latter half of the story, different plot threads and character arcs come to a culmination as the stakes of the story are heavily increased, akin to a race against time, leaving you really wanting the best for these characters and their connections that you've become attached to in a world that's about to end. The overall theme for the 2000s felt like stagnation, but it's obvious that at this point we've entered the end of the world. The world isn't going to end soon, it's already starting to end now. The question is how to live in an age where the whole world is spiraling down, down, down. DEDEDEDE Demon's Deaded Destruction as a narrative captures a poignant and awfully darkly humorous reflection on modern life and humanity's resilience and how connections play an important role in our lives as we face unknown dangers when it comes to the world that's already ending, which I'm pretty sure we can all relate to. And I think that that's something that makes this anime special and worth watching and experiencing firsthand. So those are 3 things I've recently been enjoying this summer. I definitely recommend you checking out all 3 or whichever one interests you the most. I like this. This is new. I may, in a few months, I may make another video in the fall or winter seasons talking about whatever I've been enjoying then. Or I might make a video talking about whatever I'm hyper fixated on at that time. We'll see.